Hmm. Boker Tov, as we gather. Time to get ourselves together here. I hope today is a good day, that it's off to a nice, easy start already. As we just see if we can welcome our friends on Facebook this morning as well. Good morning there. Lots to get ready for today. Still have most of a minute here to prepare ourselves. Beautiful sunshiny day outside. It's a wonderful thing to see. Yeah, and it's wonderful seeing so many Boker Tovs. Wow, and today's a 54th anniversary. What do you know? What a lovely thing. Boker Tov, good morning from Temple Sinai. Welcome to Sinai Stream's daily stream, our opportunity each morning to connect, to reflect, and to remember. And so as we gather this morning, we get ready for another day for us to learn and to grow. And so this morning, just to help us get ready to do that, I just want us to share two preparatory prayers before we get into our discussions this morning. In our morning service, we have the prayer Asher Yatzar, which expresses our gratitude for waking up in the morning, for our durability and fragility all at once, for what we are and how miraculous it is to start each day. So I'm going to read the English. Please feel free to join with me from your screen if you'd like to do so, or to read the Hebrew, or to follow along silently. Blessed eternal God, creator of the universe, you have fashioned our bodies with wisdom, creating within us a finely balanced network. To stand before you in prayer is itself a fragile miracle. Eternal God, we praise you as the healer of body and spirit. At a time like this, we're doubly aware of the significance of the body-spirit connection and of the necessity for each of us to be able to physically strengthen ourselves while also emotionally, mentally, spiritually strengthen ourselves as well. And there's no greater strength than Torah, than the opportunity to share some Torah together, as we will in a moment. So please feel free to join me in the blessing for Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah, v'ha'arevna Adonai Eloheinu, et divrei Toratcha b'finu, v'fi amcha beit Yisrael, v'niyeh anachnu v'tze'etzaenu, v'tze'etza'ei amcha beit Yisrael, kulanu yodei shemecha, v'lomdei Toratecha lishma, Baruch atah Adonai, hamlamed Torah le'amo Yisrael. This acknowledges not only the privilege and the responsibility for learning, but about sharing it with the next generation, with students and children and grandchildren, and hoping that moments of Torah shared together can be sweet. Today, on this lovely Tuesday morning, is in fact not just any day, but it is in fact Lag BaOmer. Lag is the letters Lamed and Gimel in Jewish numerology and gematria. The Lamed, as we count through the letters, is the symbol for 30. And Gimel, Aleph-Bet Gimel, the symbol for the number 3. And so Lag BaOmer is the 33rd day in the counting of the Omer, a day where during this period that has traditionally been related to as a semi-mournful period between Pesach and Shavuot, we have this day of celebration. So seeing, I think it was Joni and Murray, I'm not sure, who were married on Lag BaOmer 54 years ago, and my brother and sister-in-law in Israel were married on Lag BaOmer as well. That it is a day where weddings and haircuts and joyous things that aren't necessarily done during the semi-mourning period are traditionally allowed. I admit I have a very positive and negative relationship with the counting of the Omer and the Omer period as a whole. And so I want to share that with you this morning as a reminder that, right, Yisrael means one who wrestles with God. And so much of our tradition, in order to engage in it, we do need to wrestle with it a bit. And so let's talk a little bit about the Omer and what it is, as well as Lag BaOmer and how it expresses itself. The period of the Omer, the counting of the Omer, and Omer is a bundle of grain that during the time between Pesach and Shavuot, between Passover and 50 days later, when the festival of first fruits in biblical times was celebrated in the ancient temple in Jerusalem. This was the time when the new grain was becoming ripe. And in order to enjoy the new grain, one had to show gratitude. That just like today, the origin of Jewish people saying blessings before their food and saying our grace after we eat is that we don't want to take from the world without acknowledging what a gift it is, without saying thank you. And as the new grain came, and people might very much be in desperate need of the New Year's harvest, still it was important to stop and to say thank you, because the first fruits, the main time of the ripening of grain, was at the time of Shavuot, 50 days after the beginning of Passover. And so then after the first fruits offering was made at the temple, then people could eat their daily grain, because they had already offered and said, first of all, thank you. And so because that was that intermediate time, an Omer of grain was offered each day as a way of saying, we haven't had a chance yet for our first fruits, but even before then, thank you. That our people had this time where even while something was still becoming, that the new harvest wasn't really here, they weren't really sure what it was going to be, and yet they were in a position where they might need it or take advantage of it. And so when something in our lives, not because we don't have crops, most of us anymore, is present in potential, but not present in full, yet it's so important to say, wow, thank you. Thank you for this possibility. Thank you for what is becoming in my life, or to benefit me, or just to make sure that we start each day with a sense of gratitude. And in that sense, I think that the idea of the Omer is quite profound. So to do so, that is really a wonderful thing. Layer upon layer of the Jewish tradition, the Omer period maybe was a period of semi-mourning because of that worry, that concern of, will the harvest really come in? Will we be able to provide for ourselves and our loved ones and others? And yet, during later time, there's a story in the days of Rabbi Akiva during the rebellion against Rome, when there was a plague among his students, and that plague eased on this day. Then again, at that same level, there is an assumption, a teaching, that part of the reason for that plague is that the students didn't treat each other with respect. So while this becomes a period of mourning and tied to a particular time in our history, hopefully it's also a reminder for us each day that we need to move from day to day showing honor and respect to one another. And that as well, I find to be meaningful. The challenge is, maintaining that sense and broadening that sense of what respect really is. Because this counting of 50 days is an interesting notion. Are we counting to or counting down from? That on the one hand, this Omer period is about counting down from Passover to the time when people came to the temple in Jerusalem and offered sacrifices, something that modern Jews believe is a proud part of our past and should not be part of our future. That it's in fact something that we have progressed beyond. Whereas one of the real significances of the Omer is not a sense of personal progress, although that's present too, but is a sense of counting down to a point where we can move back in our history to a different time. And we really do need to move forward much more than we need to move back. I mean, that's part of the difficulty I have personally with the counting of the Omer. I love the idea of making each day count, right? When one is counting every day, it does say in the rules about the Omer that when we count that we have to start knowing which day it is. That may sound simple enough, but knowing which day in the counting is complicated. And even more, so many of us, and myself included, joke during this particular period that every day ends with a Y, that our days seem to blend one into the other. And so yes, we need that push to count each day, to be aware of what that day can be, that it's unique and different from the day before and the day after. And so while it's wonderful that we have some of those principles, we have other principles in the tradition of the counting of the Omer as well. It's difficult to me to read in one Siddur that I use for this, that it says that women are not obligated to do this mitzvah because it's a positive time-bound mitzvah. We can talk further about some of those ideas on another day. And it continues, this recently printed book, and says it's better that women count without saying the blessing, because certainly in the counting of 50 days, you have to get every day right in order to keep saying the blessing, and certainly they might err on one of those days. And also, in the majority, they don't understand the meaning of the words. Once we get into an idea that pushes us backward, it tends to push us backward in other human ways as well. And while I like the idea of counting forward, there's no question that a huge part of the counting of the Omer is counting backward. That traditionally, after one completes the counting of the Omer each day, one says, Harachaman, hu yachzir lanu avodat beit hamikdash limkoma bimhera b'yameinu. That may the merciful one return the sacrificial service of the temple to its place quickly in our day. And a longer version of the same time, asking us to return to an older, different time. This is a prayer I can't join in. I don't want to move backward to a time where we differentiated and decided people's abilities and physical and spiritual opportunities by their gender identity or by other similar markers. It's so important at a time like this, the times we live in, to continue to move forward. At the same time, this is hardly unique about having such an ancient tradition. And so, as with many other things during this time, I find myself really wrestling, saying on the one hand that I want to count from Passover to receiving the Torah. I want to count days in my life and make sure that I'm learning and that I'm growing. On the other hand, I want to make sure to do it in a way that doesn't accidentally reinforce a move backward to more difficult times and images, to rejections of modernity and science and the like. Lag BaOmer is marked in many ways, and in Israel in particular, by the presence of bonfires. And Israel was very clear about outlawing such bonfires this particular year, and yet the news feed was filled with pictures of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of black-clad individuals men who came together despite this, no precautions, no masks, to mark what even on the Jewish calendar is a day that in fact has no unique blessings of its own. It's a reminder of the danger at a time like this of letting go of modernity and romanticizing a past that has such great lessons to teach us, but who we need to learn all lessons from, not just sweet ones or positive ones, but real ones and forward-moving ones. And so I continue each year to wrestle with how to make counting of the Omer part of my life, which I haven't been able to do again this year, but it's all about growth. So I'm really going to try for next year, between now and then, to work out an approach to this really important counting that I can affirm and celebrate in my life. Meanwhile, Lag BaOmer, a day that's also the Yortzeit of Shimon Bar Yochai, a rabbinic figure who becomes so important in the mystical tradition. There's so many special things about today, but at least today, in history, in a period of time that's not so sweet, is a sweeter day, is a happier day, is a day where we focus on the positive. And certainly we are in the period of semi-mourning, as our world goes through these challenges and as we need to support those going through great challenges at this time. And so I hope on this Lag BaOmer that began last night and runs throughout today, that regardless of these internal wrestlings, that we can look for joy today, that we can look for something positive and sweet to celebrate in our lives today. And I hope that we can strengthen those who most need that opportunity, not just with our prayers, but with at this moment, we want to offer our prayer for healing and strength, wishing it to all those who are isolated, those who are ill, those who are recovering and must do so alone, those on the front lines with and for us. And so in that spirit, we offer these words of refuah. Mishaberach Avotenu Abraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, v'imotenu Sarah Rivka Leah v'Rachel, hu yiraped kol makotenu, yiratzon milfenecha Adonai Eloheinu, lahachalimam u'leraptotam, v'yishlach lanu mehera, refuah shlema, v'ateret shalom, v'nomar, Amen. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless and heal all who suffer. May it be the divine will to provide healing and strength. Reveal to us the holiness of life, the wholeness of shalom, and together we say, Amen. And now as we continue, we move into a time where we not only reflect and connect, but where we also remember. And so when we get to this time in our service, we remember those who died in recent days and weeks. During the period of Shloshim, we extend our condolences to the families of Lauren Barsky, Hannah Glatter, Ruth Kellman, Marcia Mason, Pauline Milrad, Oved Ben-Ari, Andrew Kosman, Paula Rich, and Suzima Te Vaida. We also remember all victims of violence and terror, including the victims of the mass shooting in Nova Scotia, all 22 of them. And on this day, Lag BaOmer, the 18th day of the month of Iyar, the 12th day this year of the month of May, we honor the memories of William Agranov, Izzy Engel, Seymour Gould, Patricia Herman, Shirley Katzman, Helen Martin, Nathan Repchinsky, Helen Reisman, Meyer Solomon, Harry Enoch Tolchinsky, Gerald Wyman. Jerry was at Minion so many days as well. Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be a blessing to us. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled as we turn together to words sanctified by memory, words glorified by hope, the words of the Kaddish Yatom. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, v'agala ubizman kari v'imru amen. Yehe shmei rabba mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya, v'yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei dekudisha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, v'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imrumav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and bring comfort and strength to all who remember. And together we say, Amen. Make this Lag BaOmer a sweet and wonderful and joyous day. Looking forward to seeing you again first thing tomorrow. Boker Tov from Temple Sinai. Have a great one.